Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it is a continuation of a message that was forwarded to me by one of our admin. The message reads like this: Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? I am back with my story again of how I became the pastor's wife. So I told you that whenever I would find any pictures that were of him and his ex-wife in his phone, I will quickly delete those pictures. I even deleted his Facebook account because I just thought that it was going to remind him about his wife. But I then realized that the more that I tried to hold on to him, to keep him with me, it was like I was trying to grab a fistful of sand. The harder that I tried to squeeze, the more that he slipped away. He would smile at me, but I could see that his eyes, they were going distant and distant, as if he was lost in thought. He would take my hand, but his touch would be absent. His mind always was elsewhere. I could feel that the charm was no longer working on him, as if this spell, it was breaking, and I did not know how else was I supposed to restore it. I began to wonder if I had made a terrible mistake, if I had overestimated the power and the depth of his love for his wife. And then one night, he received a phone call. He answered. His voice was low, and I knew that it was her. When I heard him speaking with her, my heart sank, my world began to crumble, and I realized that I was no match for the love that they shared. I knew that I could no longer maintain the charm on my own, not now that the pastor was now thinking about his wife. I needed my mother's help. I needed her to guide me again. So I went back to my mother. I told my mother everything that had been going wrong in my relationship. She told me that everything was going to be okay. She led me to the secret place where our family rituals were performed. We gathered the necessary materials, herbs, and whatever, and we then began the ritual to strengthen the charm. My mother chanted in a language that I could not even understand. A voice was weaving like a spell of binding and control. I added my own energy, my own desire to the mix, feeling the power as it was growing around us. The ritual, I don't want to lie to you, there was something that was spiritual that was taking place, because everything, it was just too intense. The air was thick with magic. I could feel the pastor's presence even from afar. His soul tied to mine by the threads of enchantment. My mother's eyes gleamed with approval as she saw the strength of my devotion, my determination to keep him under my spell. But she warned me, her voice low and serious: "The charm will not last forever, my daughter. The pastor's heart is strong, and his love for his wife is pure. You must be prepared to face the consequences when this spell is broken. For once this spell is broken, then surely this man, I can see that, is going to return back to his first love." I nodded, knowing that she was right, because I could see that this pastor, indeed, he was in love with his ex-wife, but I was willing to take that risk, to do whatever that I could to keep him by my side. My mother then said, "It is fine." She then led me to the river, and when we went to the river, it was on a full moon night. She instructed me to remove all of my clothes and to step into the river. And I stepped into the river. I felt the cold water as it was cutting through my skin. My mother began to sing, a voice as if it was connecting me to the river spirits. Suddenly, Brother Nashi, I then saw a mermaid. Yes, mermaids are for real. And when I looked at her, she was like the most beautiful creature that I had ever seen in my life. Her skin, it was made out of pure diamonds. The long hair, it was really nice. It was like a flowing seaweed. She gazed at me with her hypnotic eyes, a song weaving a spell of seduction. My mother directed me to cup my hands and scoop up the river water and to pour it over my head and shoulders. The mermaid kept on singing, and the mermaid came, and when she came to where I was, that was when she touched me. But to my surprise, when this mermaid touched me, I climaxed, brother, and I felt myself becoming one with the water. and this mermaid spirit as if it was possessing me. And at that time I felt my beauty was being heightened. I knew that in that moment I was unstoppable. And then my mother did some things on my private part. The pastor, she said, will never be able to resist you now. I emerged from the river feeling as if I was transformed, renewed. My mother's rituals had worked their magic on me, and I could sense the power that was going through my veins. I returned to my house, my heart pounding. As I entered, I saw the pastor sitting in a dimly lit room. His eyes, when he looked at me, he was like, "Wow, you really look beautiful." The pastor rose from his seat. His movements were slow. He reached out and he said, "My love, I am now yours forevermore. Forgive me, babe, because I have been thinking of dumping you." I smiled, knowing that I had won him back and that our love was going to conquer it all. And I knew that the magic that had happened whilst I was at the river, when I saw that mermaid, yes, indeed, they had worked their wonders. I knew that the pastor's heart was still heavy with doubt, that he needed proof of my devotion. So I took a bold step, and at that time I asked him to let me take his children, to take care of them as my own. At first he hesitated, unsure if he could trust me with the most precious things in his life, but what he did not know was that I wanted to use his children so that he would never think about his wife again. And I actually had other plans for his wife, and I wanted his wife to die. So at that time, that was when the pastor went and collected by force. He collected his kids from his first wife, and we then started staying with them. My desire for a child, Brother Nash, it was like an all-consuming obsession, because each and every time that I would sleep with him, I would tell him, I would beg him to impregnate me. But I did not even know that when this spirit of the mermaid had possessed me, what had happened was that it had blocked my womb. For I was later told by my mom, and she said, "Don't you know that a mermaid will come and it will sit on your womb, so you won't be able to give him a child?" And after I had seen that I was unable to give him a child, that was when I thought that it was far much better for the pastor's wife to die. I returned back to my mother, but when I spoke with my mother and I saw that my mother did not want this woman to die, so I remained quiet, and she gave me some counseling, and she told me that at least I had her husband now. I was supposed to let her leave, and I was not supposed to punish her because I was unable to bear any children for my husband, the one that I had stolen from her. So when I left my mother's compound, remember that the pastor was giving me all the money that he was being given from the church as the free will offerings. They were all coming to me, including the tithe sometimes. So I had so much money lying everywhere. So I took some money and I visited another traditional healer in another location. And that traditional healer told me that he could end my husband's ex-wife's life, and that is what we did. All that was needed was a needle. And Brother Nashi, that traditional healer, told me that I was supposed to bring one of her kids with me, and just to be safe, I brought two of them. Then they were given needles, and they were told that they were supposed to pretend as if they were stabbing their mother to death. This was after they had been made to drink some charms, and then they started stabbing their imaginary mother to death. And then a couple of days later, that was when we heard that she had passed away. Brother Nashi, when she passed away, that I then realized that the thing that I had done, it was truly evil, but I am still staying with my husband. What pains me the most right now is that he is always complaining, and he is always saying that, "I want a child, please, I want a child, please give me a child, so that at least I can know that no man will ever steal you from me." So I am scared that the more that we fight about this, and if I can't tell him the truth, then he's going to start cheating on me. And at the same time, I can't tell him that on top of my womb there is a mermaid that is sitting there that blocks his sperms from entering into my uterus, and this mermaid is the one that attracts him to me. No, I cannot tell him that. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our admin. That was the translation that she sent to me. Strange things do happen in this world.